Yeah. I'm at Grace Church Road. I went to Waynesboro to bring this man down to this address, and now he's trying to force his way into a house. I'm afraid to move my vehicle. Just placing in there.
It's inside the house now?
Yeah.
You have your doors locked?
It's open. I'm in a van.
You need to make yourself safe, okay? Even if you've got to drive away from there to get away from him and close that and lock that door. Do that for me now, please.
Okay, wait a minute.
Okay, hey guys. So apparently the press conference should be starting right now, actually. I think Miss Dog Lover's trying to actually connect to hers, but hopefully my VPN lasts long enough for that. So let me go to pull that up for a second. Sky News. Hi, Lizette. How are you? Hi, Skittles. Skull Cases. How are you? So 1 second here. Because if I click that right now, so let's see here. Connects. What this is. Come on, there we go. No, come on, Tunnel Bear. Okay, now hold on. Okay. 1 second. Was it showing it? No. Not yet. Okay, hold on.
Our family liaison officers have had to confirm our worst fears today. We will never be able to comprehend what Nikki had gone through in her last moments, and that will never leave us. We will never forget Nikki. How could we? She was the centre of our world. She was the one who made our lives so special, and nothing will cast a shadow over that. Our girls will get the support they need from the people who love them the most. And it saddens us to think that one day we will have to explain to them that the press and members of the public accuse their dad of wrongdoing, misquoted and vilified friends and family. This is absolutely appalling. They have to be held accountable. This cannot happen to another family. We tried last night to take in what we had been told in the day, only to have Sky News and ITV making contact with us directly when we expressly asked for privacy. They again have taken it upon themselves to run stories about us to sell papers and increase their own profits. It is shameful they have acted in this way. Leave us alone now. Do the press and other media channels and so-called professionals not know when to stop? These are our lives and our children's lives. To those who genuinely helped and supported us privately, we thank you. The community support in St Michael's, friends, neighbours and strangers has been nothing short of comforting and heartwarming. Friends, you know who you are, thank you. Our hearts truly break for others who have missing loved ones. Keep that hope alive. Finally, Nikki, you are no longer a missing person. You have been found. We can let you rest now. We love you, always have and always will. We will take it from here. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Well, that statement there from the police, Assistant Chief Constable Peter Lawson, and a statement read on behalf of Nicola Bulley's family. And the police confirming, as they said there, they are able to now confirm that the body they recovered from the River Wye yesterday was that of Nicola Bulley. And as you heard there, the family have been informed and recognising the huge impact that the disappearance has had on her family and friends, but also the people of this village as well, and thanking those who've helped during what's been a hugely complex and emotional investigation. Not the result they say that anybody wanted, but they hope it can provide some answers, or begin to provide some answers for Nicola's family. And then that the fact that it's now in the hands of the coroner to conduct the rest of this investigation. Katerina Vitozzi is with me, and clearly, as the police say, not the outcome anyone wanted from this, and clearly from the family a very emotional time as well.
Yeah, and they summed up really in that statement read out on their behalf the role that Nicola Bulley had in their family, you know, describing her as the centre of our world. She was the one who made our lives so special, and nothing will cast a shadow over that. And I think that is the sense you got of the woman described to us by her friends and family here, when they were so desperately hoping that she would be brought home safely. A woman they described as loving and caring and kind, and the news today just utterly heartbreaking for them.
Okay, for now, Katerina, thanks very much. Well, we can get some reaction to what we just heard from the police there on behalf of the family as well, from former Lancashire Police Chief Superintendent Bob Eastwood. Good evening, former Chief Superintendent. I mean, first of all, heartbreaking for the family. I wonder what you made of what we just heard there from the police on their behalf and behalf of the family.
Well, I think it's really tragic. You know, unfortunately, you know, it was predicted by the police that this would in actual fact be the outcome, but it doesn't make that any easier to accept by Nicola's family and children. They must be absolutely devastated, and you know, I don't know them, but my heart still goes out to them. I think the press release issued on behalf of the family was very telling, and there's a lot of people out there that have got a lot of learning to do on how to treat people with more dignity and more respect. I do notice that some media outlets were also criticised, and I understand that the media got their job to do. So it's a very, very fine line to tread in order to do that. But I think the pressure that the family has been brought under by some vile comments that have been made against the husband, pointing the finger with no evidence whatsoever against the husband, was appalling. You know, some of these specialists that I referred to in previous interviews, one of whom came back thinking that he could find Nicola's body in the undergrowth with absolutely no evidence whatsoever. You know, hashtagging Nicola's name, going about this in the most unprofessional of ways, and all the time that this was having a devastating impact on Nicola and her family, that basically wanted some peaceful end to all this and hoped that she was going to be found alive and well. And very sadly, it hasn't. But all those people who need to examine and scrutinise their own consciences in order to have an appreciation of how negatively they've impacted on the way that this family have felt during this sad time. And notwithstanding, I'd also like to say the same for members of Lancashire Police, Lancashire Constabulary. Some of the way that their officers have been treated, their investigation has been trashed on many occasions. It's been absolutely appalling. And all the time, they've been doing their best for the family and all they can do to find Nicola. And I just think there's a lot of elements of this that are just so sad. They are really, really sad. And a lot of people have made it, unfortunately, 10 times worse for the family and the police doing their best.
There's been a lot of discussion about this investigation, and obviously that intense scrutiny, as you mentioned. Do you think when the focus will be on the family and the awful news that they're confronting tonight, do you think there are questions about how this police investigation was handled, whether lessons need to be learned for the searches for the many people who go missing?
Yeah, I do. Obviously, relationships between the police and the media has been raised quite a bit today. That clearly needs reviewing for the better of everybody. But it's also the part that's played by people that have literally pushed themselves in between the family and the police. They've pushed themselves into the investigation. They've had no right to do that. They've been themselves running interviews on the banks of the river. They've been, dominating social media, some of which have had hundreds of thousands of hits. And it's just a terrible thing to have to manage when what you're trying to do is do your best to support the family and find Nicola. And I think a lot of people would appreciate the pressure the police have been under, and so it's hardly surprising some mistakes will no doubt have been made. The mistakes are made in all walks of life. You can always do better, and I'm sure the police will reflect on that. And I think the press have got a part to play in that, and the press can help the police because this will be used nationally. I'm sure the press can help the police acknowledge some of the things that could have done better, so that it's better for everybody else. Nicola's family finished off in relation to how they want other families to be treated. And I'll just also mention, the role that TikTokers have played in this. The police have had a significant balancing act. They've also had responsibility for policing the rest of Lancashire, don't forget. And this balancing act has been made worse because of these TikTokers, some of whom have turned up in the woods with a spade, digging for no reason whatsoever. What sort of impression were they trying to leave people with? And it's ridiculous. There were members of the local community in St. Michael's that were harassed. The police had to take out a dispersal notice. These things are not taken out as a matter of course, but they had to be taken out because people were visiting this area of Lancashire, a small quiet village, and they were harassing the residents, and the police needed to protect the residents. There's a lot of things that have gone into this that have probably made this, and this was described by another reporter as the absolute perfect storm, and I agree with that. And there's a lot of things that have gone in there to make this a very challenging and at times very unsavoury experience for all concerned.
You described this, I think, earlier today as a watershed in terms of policing. I think what do you think will have changed in policing and how police deal with investigations like this going forward?
Well, it'll need a full review in relation to various aspects. Lancashire Police are a very, very honest, decent police force, in my view. And they need to be given the opportunity to reflect on what they did well and what they could have done better. And I'm sure they'll go through that process. All police forces and all forward-thinking organisations do this. And Lancashire Constabulary needs to do that as soon as possible, while still supporting Nicola's family. They will still continue supporting Nicola's family, I'm sure of that, because that's what they've done in the past. And the press can play their part in that. What learning the press have by way of feedback for the police, what the press could do differently. You'll notice Nicola's family in a speech that was delivered with a great heartfelt and emotion by the police officer that's just delivered that speech. There is some learning in there for the press. And the press equally could do with doing things differently, I'm sure. And then how do the police and the press manage the intrusion into their business by people who project themselves as experts? They run their own interviews. There's also the TikTokers and so on. This isn't just a police press issue. There's a lot of things to consider in all this. And I think you know, the press should support Lancashire Police in the way that they deal with this for the benefit of the rest of the country's police force, because no doubt these sorts of pressures won't go away for the future.
Former Chief Superintendent from Lancashire Police, Bob Eastwood, thanks very much for joining us on Sky News, responding to that confirmation from Lancashire Police that the body recovered yesterday was that of Nicola Bulley. Joining us now is former Detective Constable in Greater Manchester Police, Maggie Oliver. Thanks very much for joining us again. I wonder what your reaction is to what we heard from Lancashire Police and on behalf of the family there.
I think it's a tragic case. My heart goes out to the family, but I do feel I used to be, as well as a detective, a family liaison officer. So I'm very well used to families having to deal with the shock of losing a loved one. But I do feel that at least now they do have an element of closure. They know that their daughter or wife is not somewhere and they will never have any answers. They know that she's not coming back home, which is heartbreaking. And, you know, I did listen to the news conference. And I think a great deal of my thoughts have focused on the disclosures of the police into what I see as highly personal information. And it took me back to my experience and what my experience is today, that there was a feeling of victim blaming to me by saying that Nicola, the implication was that she was an alcoholic, that she was a woman who had problems, and I saw that as excuses for not finding her. I'm also shocked, Jonathan, that it's members of the public that found her body less than a mile away from where they thought she'd gone into the river. And the question has to be asked, with all these underwater search teams, how could it be that she had not been found earlier, and it was really a chance sighting that discovered her body? So I think that there are a lot of questions there to be answered. I think a lot of my concerns are around the communication, that there has been a breakdown in communication from the police to the public, and when that communication finally did come, it raised a feeling of concern with me that I saw it as a really kind of justification for why this young woman had perhaps fallen in the river before anybody could actually confirm that she had.
Do you not feel, with the release of that personal information, for example, which was the subject of huge criticism, do you not feel that the police were, it was part of a strategy, that they'd taken a decision that would help this search, this would help their investigation?
I personally don't. I don't see a single reason why that would help an investigation, not one little bit. And, you know, with my background working in child abuse and child sexual exploitation, I repeatedly see police officers and police forces trying to blame the children for their own abuse by, you know, victim blaming. You know, they were making, how many times have we heard they were making a lifestyle choice, or they came from a dysfunctional family, or they were roaming the streets at night when they shouldn't have been. This really triggered me in that same way, that it really was unnecessary. I would say it was unlawful, because that was highly confidential information, and I don't think it added anything to the picture. They were clearly working on a hypothesis, they say. The question I asked myself as a former police officer who regularly dealt with missing from homes when I first joined Greater Manchester Police is, did that thinking at the beginning lead to this being treated in a less than serious way? That, you know, the initial visiting of the scene, it wasn't preserved. There was no, I think the assumption was made early doors that this young woman had alcohol problems, she'd fallen in, and maybe that limited the extent of the investigation for perhaps 3 or 4 days, and at which point they then brought in a senior investigating officer. But it does begs the question. It may not have altered the outcome in the end, bearing in mind what we now know. But until today, we didn't actually know that this young woman had fallen in the river. You know, there were other hypotheses that she'd been abducted, that she could have left on her own. And I just feel that the job of a police officer is to follow the lines of inquiry, not to speculate. And entering that, you know, truly personal information into the arena, I feel, you know, is detrimental and you know, undermines the reputation of this young woman, and I think it was completely and entirely unnecessary. That's my personal feeling.
And just briefly, what are the lessons that need to be learned this early on, do you think?
I think, you know, we live in a world where the media is central to any case that grabs the headlines. I don't know why this case grabbed the headlines. For instance, I'm aware of an almost identical case ongoing in Boothstown in Manchester, where a young man has gone missing, possibly fallen in the canal, and yet you don't see coverage of that anywhere. I don't know why this case caught the headlines, but I do think communication is key. I do think that police forces have a long way to go in learning how to communicate with the media, with the public. And I think maybe with the best intentions further on down the road, they have begun to share information. I think that could have been done earlier. And, you know, it does beg the question as to why she was not found earlier. I'm sure there will be an inquiry looking at missed opportunities. It looks as though possibly it wouldn't have changed the outcome, but really nobody knows that. And as a former police officer, I know that your job is to follow lines of inquiry and not jump to conclusions from day one, which it looks to me is what was done, unfortunately.
You mentioned you worked as a family liaison, or you saw the work of family liaison officers. Just, I guess, finally, the thoughts with the family tonight who've heard the worst possible news.
Heartbreaking, heartbreaking, but at least, you know, they do have an answer. You know, as a mum myself, and, you know, I can think of nothing worse than having a child go missing and you never have any idea what actually happened to that child. Obviously, it's slim comfort because Nicola is not going home again, but at least now they can begin to plan and to grieve her, knowing that she hasn't been abducted, isn't being abused in some horrendous way. It's heartbreaking and it's sad, but I think not having answers is far worse in many respects than at least having some kind of closure to the loss of this young woman, which is really sad.
Debbie Oliver, formerly of Greater Manchester Police, thank you very much for your time this evening on a difficult night for the family. Just a reminder, the police confirming that body that was discovered in the river here yesterday was that of Nicola Bulley, and then a statement read by the police on behalf of Nicola Bulley's family. Here is that statement from police.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sadly, we are now able to confirm that yesterday we recovered Nicola Bulley from the River Wyre. Nicola's family have been informed and are, of course, devastated. Our thoughts are with them at this time, as well as with all her loved ones and the wider community. We recognise the huge impact that Nicola's disappearance has had on her family and friends, but also on the people of St Michael's. We would like to thank all of those who have helped during what has been a hugely complex and highly emotional investigation. Today's development is not the outcome any of us would have wanted, but we hope that at least it can begin to provide some answers for Nicola's loved ones. They remain foremost in our thoughts. The case is now being handled by His Majesty's Coroner.
Well, joining us now is Sky's police analyst Graham Wetton. And Graham, good evening to you. An awful night for the family and this community, of course. What are your reflections on what the police had to say, what the family had to say in that briefing a little while ago?
Well, I think the family statement was really telling. I think it actually sums up what many of us have been saying over the last few weeks, is that the family are going through such a wretched time, but the speculation, the false information, the false accusations has clearly impacted on them, and they are aware of them all. And I think that's why you've seen the investigation develop as it has over the last few weeks, and the information come out from Lancashire Police. There'll be a review into this once it's all finished with. The family have got one answer now as to where Nicola is, but they still don't know actually how it all happened to her. So the investigation will still be ongoing to actually try and establish what actually happened on the day. But there will be a review process. It needs to be reviewed and looked at. Every police investigation is reviewed afterwards, whatever you've done. So they'll be looking at that, and it isn't about marking around homework. Police reviews are quite intensive and are quite critical on occasions. They will look at what they could have done, but ultimately the decisions rest with the senior investigating officer. You've heard a couple of police commentators already, and there's already slightly different points of view, and you'll get that in any walk of life, but specifically in policing. But it comes down to one person having to then justify their decisions, and it'll be all written down in a decision log, exactly why they decided to take the actions they did at the time they did and the reasons behind it. There'll be a rationale for all the decisions made, and that's what will be looked at and reviewed, and then decided whether that was the best course of action at the time or whether there could have been an alternative one.
And what are the actions that need answers most of all in your mind?
I think you just heard it. There's huge controversy or criticism about the information that was released last week, and I think they actually got into a position where, from the very beginning, they've had this main theory, this main scenario they thought would happen to Nicola, but they were still keeping an open mind about the possibility of maybe an abduction or she went away herself. So they're still investigating other avenues, but they didn't quite close that, it seems, to people. They seem to be, in the public's perception and maybe sections of the media, they were only focused on the river. And that was clearly that's where the intensive search was taking place. So I think there was almost like a misapprehension from some sections of the public and the media that the police had ignored every other possibility, which for me wasn't the case. But again, that decision-making process and the way they released that information, there needs to be like a look at almost like the media policy, the media strategy, which there will have been one, but it's whether it was done correctly and in the right times. I think they've done a really good job. Overall, when you take everything into account, there will have been slight mistakes made. There will have been maybe decisions made that when they reflect on them, think they could have done it better. But you get that in every investigation.
Do you think we've seen in this investigation, or how much have we seen in this investigation, the external influences of social media, these TikTok detectives we hear about, how much more difficult the police's job is becoming conducting an investigation like this, when they obviously want publicity and attention to help with that investigation?
Yeah, definitely. There's a fine line between appealing for information at the right time and asking for the right kind of information. I've never seen such an unprecedented interest in a case. And I think one of your previous guests has mentioned that there's similar missing persons across the country. People go missing every day, but this one seems to attract the attention of people for whatever reason. Then there was speculation on various social media and social forums. I've not known such a glare of publicity. And that attracted the media, and they then started speculating, and it was almost a vacuum created of information that people would talk about. So then people started almost trying to create themselves what had actually taken place. So I think that needs looking at again. The volume of interest in this case has been, use the word unprecedented, but it has been. I've never known anything like this. And the level of criticism, again, has been unprecedented. So I think Lancashire almost felt like they had to come out and say some things at some times that maybe they wouldn't have done if there hadn't been so much either interest or criticism at certain stages.
The release of personal information that attracted so much criticism, was that a mistake in your view?
I don't think so. I think actually they were almost in a corner where they had to release something because they've been criticised so heavily and in so many quarters about why they'd taken such a course of action. She was clearly a high-risk whisperer from the start, based on the information they had at the time, but they didn't make that information public. They then started to be criticised about the actions they had taken. So they almost had to come out to justify why their decisions had been made at certain times. So there was clearly a reason why they had to release, and I think they used the word or the term vulnerabilities at first. Then it seems they were then being, either it was being speculated on what those vulnerabilities are, so they had to then release a further statement to clarify what they were. To my knowledge, this was all with the consent and the knowledge of the family. So for me, it's almost like you're working for the family's wishes in one aspect to try and actually find some solution for them. You almost have to exclude yourself to a certain degree from the criticism and the suggestions, the ideas from everywhere else. So for me, I think it was probably, but again, I haven't got the decision logs. It will come down to a review of those decision logs and actually whoever made the decision to actually release that information at that time, why they did it and a justification for it.
Graham Wetton, thanks very much for your instant reaction to what we've heard from Lancashire Police tonight, and that confirmation of the body found yesterday was that of Nicola Bulley. Katerina Fotozzi is still with me. A lot of discussion about the police, of course, but at the heart of this tonight is a family that now knows the truth of what happened.
Yeah, and that's really how they've described Nicola in the statement that was read out on their behalf by Lancashire Police today. It's worth repeating those words. So heartbreaking that we will never forget Nikki. How could we? She was the centre of our world. And from being here over the past 3 weeks and speaking with her friends and family, so many people have got a sense of the woman that Nicola Bulley was, a loving mother, such a huge part of this community, a church community, the school community. We were speaking with friends who said we've known her since our babies were little, and we went to mothers and toddlers groups. And amidst all the commentary and criticism and the inevitable discussion that there will be now about the investigation, about the things surrounding the investigations, I think that statement really just summing up that the family want this to be about the missing woman, the mother, the daughter, the sister that they were so desperately hoping would come home, the centre of their world, as they describe. And unfortunately, that heartbreaking news that the body recovered was that of the person they were so desperately hoping would be brought home to them, to their two daughters, Harriet and Sophia. Heartbreaking.
Well, if you're just joining us, a reminder of the breaking news from here in Lancashire. And in the last half hour, police have confirmed that a body found in the River Wyre, close to where I'm standing, is that of Nicola Bulley. Her body was discovered yesterday close to the place where she was last seen walking her dog after she dropped her two daughters off at school. That was just over 3 weeks ago on the 27th of January. Police gave this update a short time ago.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sadly, we are now able to confirm that yesterday we recovered Nicola Bulley from the River Wyre. Nicola's family have been informed and are, of course, devastated. Our thoughts are with them at this time, as well as with all her loved ones and the wider community. We recognise the huge impact that Nicola's disappearance has had on her family and friends, but also on the people of St Michael's. We would like to thank all of those who have helped during what has been a hugely complex and highly emotional investigation. Today's development is not the outcome any of us would have wanted, but we hope that at least it can begin to provide some answers for Nicola's loved ones. They remain foremost in our thoughts. The case is now being handled by His Majesty's Coroner. The family have asked that we read a statement on their behalf. I'll now hand over to Detective Chief Superintendent Pauline Stables to do that.
Nicola's family have asked that we release the following statement on their behalf as follows. Our family liaison officers have had to confirm our worst fears today. We will never be able to comprehend what Nikki had gone through in her last moments, and that will never leave us. We will never forget Nikki. How could we? She was the centre of our world. She was the one who made our lives so special, and nothing will cast a shadow over that. Our girls will get the support they need from the people who love them the most. And it saddens us to think that one day we will have to explain to them that the press and members of the public accuse their dad of wrongdoing misquoted and vilified friends and family. This is absolutely appalling. They have to be held accountable. This cannot happen to another family. We tried last night to take in what we have been told in the day, only to have Sky News and ITV making contact with us directly when we expressly asked for privacy. They again have taken it upon themselves to run stories about us, to sell papers and increase their own profits. It is shameful they have acted in this way. Leave us alone now. Do the press and other media channels and so-called professionals not know when to stop? These are our lives and our children's lives. To those who genuinely helped and supported us privately, we thank you. The community support in St Michael's, friends, neighbours and strangers has been nothing short of comforting and heartwarming. Friends, you know who you are. Thank you. Our hearts truly break for others who have missing loved ones. Keep that hope alive. Finally, Nikki, you are no longer a missing person. You have been found. We can let you rest now. We love you, always have and always will. We will take it from here. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Well, that statement read by a police officer on behalf of Nicola Bulley's family, of course, and before that, confirmation from the police of what they've discovered following that, the discovery of that body in the river yesterday. Our correspondent Katerina Vitozzi is here with me. And Katerina, striking that thanks from the family for the community, because this devastating for the family, but devastating for the friends and for everyone who's tried so hard over the last few months.
Yeah, I think we've been struck how the community, not just from this village, but the village 3 miles away where Nicola Bulley lived, came together to try and contribute in whatever way they could to try and find her ultimately. Everyone was just so desperate for her to be able to be brought home and brought home safely. And we saw in the immediate days after her disappearance in the local tennis club, they were organising a community-led search to go alongside that of the police. We saw people wandering around with maps that had been printed out by neighbours, by friends of Nicola, trying to retrace her route, trying to do anything they could to generate publicity, to keep her name in the headlines, to make her feel known by people, so that they could try and elicit a little bit of information that could have brought her home safely. And I think we've been hugely struck by that, and by how frank and open people have been to let us know the sort of woman that Nicola Bulley was. Kind, caring, a wonderful mother, partner, daughter, sister, neighbour. And the most heartbreaking of news, you could feel it. It felt raw, even in a statement read by a police officer. You could feel how raw and heartbreaking. What else could it be? The most horrendous of news to receive. And like you say, a community, a small community. I remember being so struck even in the first conversation I had with a friend of Nicola's, where she said, you know, we're the sort of people, we lead a quiet life here. We walk our dogs, we take our children to school, and we're not ashamed of leading a quiet life. This is a small village that has become the centre of this story that has generated enormous public interest. And that sense now that it is a moment for the family, for this community to pause, reflect and grieve a woman and this heartbreaking news.
And so much focus on the police investigation for good and bad, but it has been a massive, unprecedented police operation.
Yeah, absolutely. Last week, the Lancashire Police broke it down into numbers. 300 homes searched, an outbuilding search and caravans searched, thousands of lines of inquiry followed up on, dash cam footage, CCTV footage analysed. And because of the huge public interest in this, there was so much information for Lancashire Police to have to filter, and them, by their own admission on Wednesday in a press conference, were giving perhaps more information, not even perhaps, they said they were giving more information than they normally would on an investigation that was open and active, but it reflected the enormous scale of the operation and the enormous scale of the public interest. And we know that there are now that there was an internal inquiry that Lancashire Police said it was doing, something which is routine in a case that has become so high profile and so complex, and it's an internal review to support that own investigation. We know there's also a separate referral by the police to the police watchdog because of that previous contact that they had with Nicola Bulley's family on the 10th of January.
Okay, Katerina, for now, thanks very much. Well, focusing on the police now, we can speak to former Deputy Assistant Commissioner for the Metropolitan Police, Stephen Roberts. Thanks very much for joining us this evening. I can only imagine you must know from your work in the police, there can't be many more awful things for a police force to have to do than break that news that they have tonight. What are your thoughts on what you've heard in the last hour?
It's sad, it's tragic. We can only offer our sympathies to the family. But as some of your other commentators have said, at least now they have a degree of certainty. At least now Nicola can be laid to rest. They can start to try and find some peace. And the police operation will continue, actually, to make sure that every bit of evidence that the coroner may need will be available to him or her. And quite correctly and absolutely routinely, there will be a review of everything that's been done, because in this operation, as in all operations, there are lessons to be learned. Perhaps the strongest lesson here will flow out of the perceived failure to manage the media and the difficulties that senior investigating officers have managing both the official media, TV, radio, the printed press, as opposed to social media, which can, and in this case, did complicate matters and generate problems that the investigators really could have done without.
You say perceived failures. Do you think they were failures? What do you think needs to be addressed from what you've seen from the outside?
I think what needs to be addressed and what needs to be reviewed are the reasons why the disclosures of sensitive information were made, the justification for that, and that needs to be set alongside the unofficial media, social media traffic that was going on at the time. We've had some hints of that even from the family statement about appalling rumours being circulated on the internet, that the senior investigating officer felt that she had to manage and could limit by disclosing information that would not normally be released.
I'm gonna stop that there. Now, hold on a second. I need to disconnect. Need to disconnect from Tunnel Bear because that's just, I think, repeating itself there now. You're on mute there, Miss Dog Liver. Unmute. Oh, I think we're hitting the button at the same time. Unmute. Let's see here. Can't unmute because they chose Miss Dog Liver.
Hey, Sunny.
There you go. I think we were both
Hi.
hitting your unmute and whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I said, I think that's just repeating itself. See, hearing that this stuff again. What's your thoughts? Can I ask?
Yeah, obviously I'm devastated for her family, Paul and her girls. It provides some answers, but they're going to have many more questions.
Yeah. Well, so okay. So, what's your thoughts on What's your thoughts on the fact that they said that it was a water search, and they said that from the beginning? So that would have meant that they felt, of course, that she was drowned, that she was in the water. They were so focused on that. So if they were so focused on the fact that she was drowned and in that river, then why would you need to release that information about alcohol and the January 10th incident, right? Just like even like
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know why they were so convinced she was in the river. First of all, I mean, I think they needed to be more transparent. They needed to say why they thought she was in the river. I mean, did they find an item of clothing?
no, there was
Did they
nothing.
find some kind? And
Yeah.
you know, it's just they've just been so vague throughout the whole investigation, and that's why everyone's criticizing them at the moment.
Well, I was going to say that, I mean, to me, they weren't, I don't know that they were so vague, because there were lots of things said that they were doing the water search because everything told them that she didn't leave that area. There was no footage they could find that showed that she left the area, and they were so focused on the water search. And so they were so focused. So yeah, I mean, like, the thing is that they really weren't being as transparent as they could have, because they just kept saying like there's nothing to show us. So it's almost like the perception was that, like, well, hold on a second here. There is other alternatives to what could have happened to her, because all you're doing is putting all your eggs in a basket to our perception, and you're saying, look, she's in the water. So if she's in the water, if they're so adamantly sure she's in the water, there was absolutely zero reason to put out that information about the drinking, menopause, and the January 10th incident. There
Yeah,
was
yeah,
no
I
reason.
totally agree. Yeah, I totally agree. That was unnecessary
Even
to put that
go ahead.
information out. But the fact is, there were some CCTV cameras that weren't working, and she wasn't caught on CCTV actually entering the park. So, I really think they should have treated it as a crime scene from day one. They should have cordoned off the whole
Absolutely.
area. I mean, I'm not an expert, but it's just common sense to me.
But 101 would say that, right? 101 would say that
Yeah.
you would do that, like the dummy
Yeah.
book would think that they would have done that right away, because obviously it's not normal for a phone to be on a bench and a dog, meaning within hours they should have deemed it as a crime scene.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm. If they,
Exactly.
yeah,
But yeah, obviously I'm not an expert.
No,
I'm
but
just someone that
it's
watches videos on YouTube. So, but just on that subject, like the police were saying, we've really got to stamp out this whole thing with TikTok, with people going up there, digging up the land, trying to break into people's properties. It's just gone completely ridiculous.
Well, do you think that that was a publicity stunt for the channel? Because no, the digging by the TikTok. Because honestly, that kind of came off as strange. So a guy goes out in the woods, says he finds this, turned over land, and then he goes back supposedly with his camera, and then all of a sudden he comes, oh, look at that, I just come across a guy that is digging this land here. So we know, just like people like Joseph Morris, who tried to act like that there's something going on. So did they turn over the soil themselves and then project it as that, hey, look, we came across this soft soil? People do that stuff.
To be honest, it did cross my mind. I mean, and it's actually disgusting what people will go to, the lengths they will go to get views. I don't get TikTok. I'm a completely different generation. I don't see the appeal of it, to be honest with you. But it seems that people are using it for the wrong reasons.
but it's not just TikTok. I mean, they said TikTokers, but really it's YouTubers, TikTokers, Instagrammers, whatever. I mean, it's really the same thing. So I don't even think like what they say TikTokers, but really it's say YouTubers or whatever as well. And I think it just depends on, like I said, how far one takes something. Um, but again, had they at least taped off that area and crime scene, or had it so that nobody could come into the park until they figured out what happened to this lady, at least
Yeah.
that, instead of allowing people just to come in, record, do all this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I read that some guy named something Dan Duffy or something was fined and charged for recording you know, the bench area or something like that, or what they deemed as the crime scene area. And I'm like,
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah.
but I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, to me, actually, I was actually like, well, whatever. You guys didn't do anything. Like, it's not like you guys, meaning you guys just left it as a free for all. So it's not like you guys cornered it off or anything.
But don't
So
you think it's sick that people were going up there and posing on the bench and taking selfies?
to sit there and pose on the bench?
Yeah.
I think it's one thing if you're kind of recording maybe the area, giving people a bird's eye view, in a sense. And I think it's a different story than sitting there like whatchamacallit, Nancy Grace. She took a lot of slack for basically sitting at this table in front of the Idaho House as if
Oh
to
yeah.
say like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm here. It offended a lot of people because it was almost like, are you here to basically, show off yourself, or are you here because you kind of care about the case, or is it just for some views? Like, hey, look at me. I'm sitting here in front of the Idaho. It's sitting at my table. So that's where I think it becomes maybe a little bit more offensive to people.
Yeah.
Like, oh, here, chick, somebody, somebody's missing, but here, let me get my picture in of I was here at this, versus I think I don't know. I think that there's people that take care in cases, and then there's those ones that go overboard, and that's not going to change unless, like, you're UK. Like, I don't know why this is coming across to me, for instance, Miss Dog Lover, but to me in the UK, they're acting like, okay, so they're saying like this is most like unprecedented case that people are, but to me, from this side of the planet, I mean, that's very normal in the USA, that cases are just as big like this, wait, like all the time, right? We've seen it with Idaho, we've seen it with Delphi, we've seen it with a ton of cases, but yet over in the UK, it's almost like they're not used to it or something.
Yeah, I mean, it does happen. I think the reason this has really stuck out is it's just really strange circumstances. Like, I think people have been saying, oh yeah, there's been the focus on it because she was an attractive woman, but I don't agree. I think I don't. The media will latch on to things that they want to, but
Yes, yeah.
it is extenuating circumstances. Like, it's very
Yeah.
strange. I haven't personally seen anything like it for a while. So
Yeah. Well, like I said, in the States, we're seeing it all the time. So to me, it's quite normal, to be honest with you.
well, it's a much bigger country, isn't it? And
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. And that's of course why. And I do think as well that, okay, yes, I will agree with press that they cherry pick what stories they're gonna do. Um, I don't feel like this was because she was some blonde, what they think is pretty woman. I think she was just, like I said, a good-looking mom, two kids, husband, whatever. I think that the story just picked up. I don't necessarily know that it, for this case, that it was, you know, sometimes just cases pick up. Simple as that. It just, they hear about a woman that disappeared, and yeah, they were saying that somebody else had disappeared, and they don't get as much coverage and stuff like that. I think it's kind of I think it's both ways that it kind of happens. That there is the cherry pickers. Oh, some blonde-haired, blue-eyed beauty, or some, gorgeous-looking little child, But because again, we just take the Flora case, and we can see just how much care was put into Delphi versus Flora.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's I think it's both. Sometimes they pick up, but then other times they're, oh, poor little black girls, oh, so sorry, it's sad, it's sad. And then Delphi comes along, two white girls, and then all of a sudden it takes off. And I think it's just because of the intrigue level as well.
Yeah,
Delphi,
I mean, what's happening with Flora? Because what are they doing like with that?
Well,
They need justice for those girls.
Yeah, I honestly I don't keep up to date with it. I do check up on it now and again just to see, but I mean I think it's regardless it's an ongoing case. Like, but I don't know how much effort is put into it. I see a lot of creators focusing on Flora again, which is good because the girls do deserve their answers as well. For it, but I can't say that I'm extremely up to date with that case. It's just no, I look into it. Like I was just looking at it in the last couple of weeks again a few times, but it's one of those things like, AG put out a video of Flora fires, I remember, and it was good. And I just thought sometimes there's too much corruption within going on, but hopefully one day, I think Carroll County is really slimy, to be honest with you. I know that there's a lot of other places that are too, but I think that Carroll County, from everything I've seen, is really a bunch of slime, a lot of slime buckets in there. Prosecutors, lawyers, judges, and people just scratching each other's back. In a sense, I don't find that I just think that there's a lot of corruption and
That's so sad.
political
That is
bullcrap
so
going
sad.
on in that county, and that's only because obviously it's the focus of Delphi and that area. And
Yeah.
which reminds me, just so people know, the Flint Farmer case for Karina is been put off to let's see, January, February, March, April, May, to May now for the jury trial. Um, yeah, so just so you know that. So it was supposed to be, but then they asked for, of course, the good old continuance. Yeah. Now I want to go back to Nicola,
Yeah.
because okay, so tell me your thoughts on that and that guy Peter Falding. Okay. So in hindsight, little Mr. Arrogant was like, if she was in that river, I would have found her. We searched the area, whatever. And then all of a sudden it becomes, well, I mean, the area she was last noticed, yeah, we searched that really good, and we searched up to the weir. And it's like listening to someone backpedal, and then of course now he's saying, like I'm going to take the brunt of this. But well, dude, you literally said that if she was in that river, doesn't matter if it was underbrush, if she was in that river, you would have found her. Then he says, oh, but that didn't include the reeds. I mean, it was just at the bottom only, it didn't include the
Okay.
reeds,
Yeah.
right?
So from day one, actually, just in his defense quickly, he did say that the sonar wouldn't go into the reeds.
Yeah, but that was
So
after the fact, right?
that was in the early days before he started the search. He did say.
Did he say that?
Yeah, he did.
Mm.
I'm not
I
defending
don't remember
him.
that.
I think he was trying to help, but
Absolutely.
now he's trying to deflect onto the police that because he didn't find her, because he was so confident from day one, if she's in the river, I will find her.
Right. I mean,
yeah.
when somebody makes a statement like that, they're taking it as, if she is in there, doesn't matter if it's reeds or not, if she's in there, I would have found her.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even the police and his search, his 55,000 search stuff that found her. It was two people that walked by with their dogs.
Yeah, but he, like I said, he did say from the beginning, if she was in the reeds, like the sonar doesn't go into the reeds. I can find it and send it to you on Facebook if that helps.
Yeah, I'd
But
like to
yeah,
see that.
I'm not
But
defending him. I'm just
but
saying
bottom
that's
line is,
what he said.
none of
Yeah.
them found her. None of them.
No, no,
It was
exactly.
passerby after all that double talk, after all that talking of saying, we've checked, we've gone back and rechecked and this and whatever. Obviously, you know, and then but the thing is that he said, like Mr. Faulding there, doesn't really matter. He said there's no way that she would have gone beyond this. A body basically floats down to the bottom. There's no way it's getting past that weir, basically. So that's
Yeah,
what
and
I
he
mean.
doesn't personally know that river, does he?
No. So it's
Yeah.
those comments that he made, which had the public, though, going, okay, so if they're so adamant about that she's in the water, then why is it that you guys can't find her if they're so adamant? And that's when you're going, okay, but you guys keep saying that you have nothing to show that she's in the water. Of course people are gonna hypothesize, like myself as well, that perhaps she took her own life. We still don't know if that's not the case. We don't know still. And then, but of course people are gonna, there was really three things that had happened there. Abduction, which was, it became more plausible to me after the 3 weeks of, that's really when that one became more plausible. But there was really just three things. But again, so they say that they're focused on the water, and even when they gave the second press interview, Ms. Doglover, they said that they were focused on the water, and then all of a sudden, so right again, so that means that they believe that she's not alive. But hold on, this lady has alcohol issues. I'm sorry, that is still so wrong to this day that they even release that stuff. It didn't matter if people were threatening to put out stories. That's just like feeding into the Daily Mail or the Inquirer and stuff like that. Who cares? It's not your job really, like, to worry about that. Your job is to focus on finding Nicola, right? And
Yeah,
if people want
exactly.
to put
And
out,
what relevance is it to the investigation?
yeah. Well, that was just it. They believe she was in the water. That means that they believe she wasn't alive. What relevance was that to us? Meaning, even if that was true, we still didn't need to know that. Even if the family said it was okay, them being the professionals, like I said, why release that if you don't think she's alive? So that means that you're adding a different twist now to it because there's no evidence to show so far that she's in the water. So now it's like, who cares if somebody's threatening to put out a story about her? That's going to happen regardless. Meaning, this stuff is not going to stop regardless. So unless like UK itself mandates certain rules for TikTokers, YouTubers, and stuff like that, other than that, everyone has that right, no matter how sleazy or scumbuckety they are about it, to, report on things. They really do.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
until laws brought into place, and it won't happen in the US, but maybe in the UK, something might happen because of this case with that. Who knows? Because you guys seem a little bit more harsher, to be honest, on people on the sleuths or the internet people. UK's coming
um,
across as harder
not
than,
sure about that. I mean,
well,
um,
there's people that wouldn't do this case because of that. Like big people though, like there was big YouTubers that wouldn't cover the case because of the repercussions.
oh really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've not seen them come down hard on people like this before.
They find,
I think
yeah.
this is probably the first
Mm.
example of that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
I mean,
sorry, the only thing that I would say, the one thing that has really disgusted me,
okay.
is what I've seen online is the comparison of Paul to Chris Watts.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've seen comments like, "Oh, he looks like Chris Watts," Paul has been vilified, like they said, and that's absolutely disgusting. Can you imagine? Like, just put yourself in his position.
Mm. Yes. I
If you
mean,
ever have to try and understand something, just think how you would feel if it was your family member. before you comment on any YouTube video, Twitter, TikTok, whatever it is. Just, and if you can't relate to that, then you're not a human being.
Mhm. Well, the thing is that, I mean, like I said, I can't sit here. She has perfect. I sit there and called out KD on freaking BG.
Yeah, but that's different, Sonny.
Well,
I'm with you
let
on
me.
KD.
I won't make any excuses for myself at all. Because
But
bottom line is,
KD is a bad person. Let's agree
true.
on that.
Okay. Okay. True enough. True enough. But the thing is that I learned my lesson from that, because that was my first time. Even, I really truly felt I was doing the right thing. I was like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to get into all that, but I really truly felt. But as time has progressed, I now understand the actions of, the actions of what I'm doing. Whereas at first I was like, everyone calls out everybody on this freaking case and this and that. Everyone was calling out Pat Brown and this person, like 90 other people were called out, way before I ever came into it. But I guess in my head too, I wasn't very experienced at all, and I'm still learning. But I've definitely learned, not, you know what I mean? It's not a matter of, to me, who so much did it, as a matter of what happened to the person. What happened to Libby and Abby? What happened to Nicola? Now, I personally still never felt like her husband had anything to do with it. I read him as being genuine and genuine in how he was speaking. But it is, right? It is very detrimental to the family to know that your wife is no longer there. And then people are saying, hey, you are guilty. I didn't like the way you looked this way. I didn't like the way you did that, or whatever, like that, you know? So it's not going
Yeah.
to change, though. It's not, though. You know what I mean? It will always be there, if not worse, to be honest. I mean,
I
this is
just
going to
hope
happen
that
again and
people
again.
can be more compassionate and just try to
Correct.
think before they comment.
Yeah.
Just like I said, just, how would you feel if it was your family member and
Put your
someone was
shoes
talking
on the other
about,
foot. Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
like, I know from that, when I lost my brother, I've spoken about this before, it was on the Daily Mail website, and people were commenting, and what I was reading, it was just so upsetting, and it's horrible. Just think about what the family are seeing all of this. A family member could be watching this live stream right now. Just try and be human about it. Try and be compassionate and be nice.
Yeah.
It doesn't cost much to be nice, does it?
Not at all. And regardless of what the police did or didn't release, right, that has still no bearing on at least putting care and compassion, in it. Again, when I actually thought yesterday that when they said that they found a body in the river, I actually thought that a lot of people would, think that, okay, well, maybe she did slip or fall, or okay, maybe she did take herself out, and that would have been more because of the issues that we found out about as well. Well, prior to that, to be honest, I thought, but I couldn't believe how many people were still thinking abduction. To be honest with you, I mean, we don't know any answers, but I was still kind of shocked that I thought more people would have went, oh, okay, but instead, there's still a ton of people that think an abduction happened, and I don't personally anymore. I was looking at that angle definitely because it was over 3 weeks, and like I said, you're listening to these professionals say, if she was in that body of water, we would have found her. They didn't find her. All that searching after 3 weeks, and they're still convinced that she's in the water, but yet they let us know about that other stuff. That means that they weren't so convinced she
They
was in the water.
searched up to a certain point, didn't they?
Yes. Yeah.
So I just wonder if possibly she could have walked further down the river, past that point, and then entered the river there, past the weir.
And The only ever thing that stops me about it, that all, is the dog. A dog would
Yeah.
have, a dog would
Mm.
follow. I mean, you know that.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, is that that's what stops people in their tracks in a certain sense, because everyone knows that dogs are loyal, and that if you're sitting there in the water, your dog would be bark 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 barking. Now
Yeah.
it was only a small window of 10 minutes that they couldn't account for. So what could really happen in 10 minutes, right? So this dog would have been barking, and someone possibly would have said to them, like, yeah, this dog was barking, barking. Maybe we might not have heard it, but I, I still don't feel like that happened. But I mean, I'm hoping for answers. I think myself, it's gonna happen in that area of the bench, is where I think it happened. Um, and as much as I was thinking it was more of a her, because what Paul said about the day was different, was, catches your ear. I mean, if it didn't catch anyone's ear, it probably should have, because, everything was the same, but that morning was different. The minute you say that, then you're wondering
Yeah.
why was everything so neatly ready, or so that when he came downstairs, that there was no chaos. Like, he knew that it was a different day. So when you say something like that, and then the family is saying, you know we just want you to come home if you're seeing this, is feeding into the fact that, that possibly she's not well, and she's maybe got depression going on. And then that's when they add later about the alcohol and the menopause and the January 10th thing. So now you're really thinking that this was to do with, perhaps, that she decided that, she was gonna take her own life that
Just
day.
makes me so sad. I just,
You know,
yeah.
I hope it's not. I mean, I hope. I mean, I hope it's just simply a very sad accident. Um, that she did slip, she banged her head, something, knocked herself unconscious or something. You
Yeah.
know,
I mean, the autopsy will show all of that. They can tell a
correct,
lot. They can tell so much from that.
right? Yeah.
And I hope it gives her family some answers. They're going
Mm.
to go through hell. I mean, this is going to be awful for them, obviously, but they deserve answers. And it's better that they know where she is, that they've brought her home.
Mm.
They can lay her to rest, and the kids are not growing up not knowing where their mum is.
And that's really why I love that lady that you called Maggie Oliver or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maggie Oliver, I didn't know, like, I didn't know her name. All I know is that I felt like she was speaking from my heart as well. The exact same things that she was saying is exactly my thoughts as well. Whether it was about the booze or how they handled it, I don't think that they handled that appropriately whatsoever. We should not have known that stuff. If they believe she was not alive, there was no reason for it. That means that they were thinking something else. But they still didn't need to let us know that. That was wrong. Again, it's their job to do the right thing. And just because you ask the family doesn't know any better. Other, like their whole thing was is that we're gonna quash stories because people are, so we're gonna take this route. No, 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 no. That's like a rook. That's like a little baby, in a sense, saying, well, somebody's gonna tell a story, so we better get it out there first. That's what it came across like to me. There was no need of it. Who cares? There's people that are going to say a lot more things, like the husband did it, or this happened. Who cares? Like, what do you guys care for? It that one, just to me, was just so wrong. Like, that they really,
Yeah.
not to say that they didn't do a decent job, but of course, could they have done a better job in our eyes? Absolutely. Absolutely. you know Again, if they would have just been, like, quit telling us how focused you are on the water, because that's all you keep saying, is that you're so focused on the water, and all we're seeing is, well, you didn't deem it as a crime scene, and we're not seeing any body, and so what's going on here? And then, like I said, they hold the other press conference give us some information, and then oops, we're not going to tell you we're going to say vulnerabilities. Again, could have just left it at vulnerabilities. But and then a couple hours later, like I said, they say that. So that means that obviously they are starting to think perhaps something different, because you would not need to unearth that information if they already felt like she was passed away in the water,
Yeah.
And then, like I said, and then honestly, pie in their face a little bit, because they're not even the ones to find her. It was two people walking by that found her. Yeah.
I know, it's terrible. I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to go, but thank you
No,
so
that's
much
okay.
for having me on.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm gonna take like 5 minutes for my mental health, and I would encourage everyone in the chat to do the same. Just take some time for yourself, and just look after yourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Balance.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, and I'll see you soon, Sunny.
Okay, thanks so much, Miss Dog
Thank
Lover.
you. Bye
Yeah.
bye.
So take care. So Alexa, are you gonna come join me, or are you out? Or Adam, you were in here, dude, and then you left. Where did Adam go, guys? Kyle, where is Adam? He was in here. Come on, Adam. If you're watching this, get your butt back on here. Anyways, what do you guys put your thoughts in there? I'm not going to stay on too much longer. But I'm curious what your guys' thoughts were. And well, he's not doing my dishes either. Pretty sure he sits on this panel. I seen him come in though. He came in, and then I thought he was here, and the next thing I know, it was like, where did he go? Hey, partner, where'd you go? Where'd you come from, Cotton Eye Joe? But anyways, oh, I know what I wanted to show you guys. So you guys just tell me your thoughts, of course, what you guys think about it all in the chat if you want to. I did want to show you guys an article here. Okay, so I seen this last night on Twitter. It says, my brother went missing in the same place as Nicola, exactly 45 years ago before. And it says, a man whose brother went missing on the same stretch of river where Nicola disappeared exactly 45 years earlier has shared his sympathies with her family. Don Jones said, we know just what that they must be going through, because his brother Roger also vanished on January 27th, close to the River Wire near Preston in 1978. Mother of two. Here, 1 second. Mother of two, Miss Bulley, has not been seen since around 9:15 on the same date in 2023, and the emergency have still not. 1 sec. Okay. Wherever I left off there, maybe I cut off a sentence, I don't know. Roger Jones was 16 when he was thrown into the river after a motorbike accident, but not found until 2 months later. His brother told the Daily Star he was obviously swept over the weir and into the tidal part of the river. It was just a case of waiting for what seemed inevitable. Mr. Jones said river conditions were pretty similar to when the 45-year-old mother disappeared, and that Roger was found 7 miles away from St. Michael's. Thank you, Miss Dog Lover.
Miss Dog Lover, super chat. £1.99. Thank you. Thank you. Heart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you, Miss Dog Lover. Appreciate you coming on with me. Okay. And so let me go back to this. Yeah, so the town Miss Bulley was last seen. Mr. Jones said police and rescuers spent hours trying to find his brother, but eventually his body washed up on the sandbank on a low tide. So, right, it took like 2 months for this gentleman's, Roger Jones there, for his body to show up, actually. So when I read that, I was like, oh, okay. because again, went through the over the weir into the title part, and obviously Nicola was a mile down, and she obviously got hung up in the reeds there, which is, by the way, just to show you guys again, here I'll give you the example. This is of course where the bench was. Okay, whoops, let me come back off of this a little bit. The bench was, and then this is where we can now say her body was recovered, and so that was right here in this area. You guys can Google it yourself. It's behind that building there, and that's where she was recovered as she kind of coming around the bend. She obviously got hung up in, but still, I'm sorry, you guys, but is it just me, or does that look like really small, like really narrow? It just looks so narrow. I don't know. I mean, I'm not no diving expert or whatever, but who knows? As long as she's found, I guess, eh? No, there's already been a sorry, Daisy. There's already been a conference, Daisy, and it was a very short one at that. Here, let me just see if I can give me 1 sec here. Let me just see if I can pull it up on okay. I mean, I guess I could probably go watch my own live back, right? Pretty much. Okay, let me just see if it's wasn't very long at all. Let's see here. Nicola Bulley updates. Press conference. Okay, whatever. I'm just going to pull up my own channel. 1 second there. Okay, give me a second. I'm just going to mute myself. Okay, so I'm going to pull up myself and then I'll mute myself. Stop screen. Present. This is our chat here going on. I'll make it bigger. And then I'll just play it again for anyone that hasn't seen it. And please give this live a like and a share if you couldn't. So that, yeah, I'll play it. Just 1 sec here.
Her dog after she dropped her 2 daughters off at school. That was just over 3 weeks ago on the 27th of January. Police gave this update a short time ago.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sadly, we are now able to confirm that yesterday we recovered Nicola Bulley from the River Wyre. Nicola's family have been informed and are, of course, devastated. Our thoughts are with them at this time, as well as with all her loved ones and the wider community. We recognise the huge impact that Nicola's disappearance has had on her family and friends, but also on the people of St Michael's. We would like to thank all of those who have helped during what has been a hugely complex and highly emotional investigation. Today's development is not the outcome any of us would have wanted, but we hope that at least it can begin to provide some answers for Nicola's loved ones. They remain foremost in our thoughts. The case is now being handled by His Majesty's Coroner. The family have asked that we read a statement on their behalf. I'll now hand over to Detective Chief Superintendent Pauline Stables to do that.
Nicola's family have asked that we release the following statement on their behalf as follows. Our family liaison officers have had to confirm our worst fears today. We will never be able to comprehend what Nikki had gone through in her last moments, and that will never leave us. We will never forget Nikki. How could we? She was the centre of our world. She was the one who made our lives so special, and nothing will cast a shadow over that. Our girls will get the support they need from the people who love them the most. And it saddens us to think that one day we will have to explain to them that the press and members of the public accuse their dad of wrongdoing, misquoted and vilified friends and family. This is absolutely appalling. They have to be held accountable. This cannot happen to another family. We tried last night to take in what we have been told in the day, only to have Sky News and ITV making contact with us directly when we expressly asked for privacy. They again have taken it upon themselves to run stories about us to sell papers and increase their own profits. It is shameful they have acted in this way. Leave us alone now. Do the press and other media channels and so-called professionals not know when to stop? These are our lives and our children's lives. To those who genuinely helped and supported us privately, we thank you. The community support in St Michael's, friends, neighbours and strangers has been nothing short of comforting and heartwarming. Friends, you know who you are. Thank you. Our hearts truly break for others who have missing loved ones. Keep that hope alive. Finally, Nikki, you are no longer a missing person. You have been found. We can let you rest now. We love you, always have and always will. We will take it from here. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
That was obviously me replaying that from on this live here. And right, how did it? No, they didn't find her. Remember that, true crime. They didn't find her. People that were walking their dogs found her. Not all their manpower and expensive equipment did not find her. So with that one, I don't even know what to say, to be honest with you. It's, it's like you spend all this time on it and they didn't even find her. Not their fancy equipment, none of them. Two people walking their dogs, found her, as we found her. So I'm glad she's definitely found for the family's sake. I still don't agree with certain things that were handled a certain way, but whatever. I mean, it is what it is. But hopefully that they learn. Hopefully that they learn from that. And yeah. I'm not going to be staying too much longer on this live. So do you guys have anything that you wanted to say about with regards to the case that don't make sense to me and make it make sense? No, it doesn't make sense. I mean, obviously we can't change back the time of hands that's already happened, but it doesn't make sense either because again, you have this expert saying that, hey, look, she's in the river. I would have found her. That there's no way that she went past that weir. That's not how it works. From my experience, from my vast experience and my vast equipment, not to say he's not a decent guy, right? I think he overtalked himself. Absolutely. And I think he's backpedaling to a point for sure, because he made many comments. It wasn't just the comments of the reads. It was the comments of saying that, if she was in the river, to us, we don't know unless you're like, got a sonar equipment like AWP, Ventures with Purpose there, and stuff like that, or chaos divers, those ones that are like, professionals at what they're doing as well. We just kind of go by what they're telling us, because we're not experts in it. So if you're telling us that if she was in the river, that you would have found her, that equates to the whole part of the river. That equates to reeds and all, or whatever. When you're saying that, but if he did say at the start, prior to her being found, and said something about the reeds, so be it. But he also made comments that she wouldn't have gone very far. And I was just meaning that certain part of the thing, high seas through. So he overtalked himself, definitely. And again, she was found past the weir. You guys all, like I said, present, share screen. Like the weir is right. Okay. Whoops. Let me just go back here. Okay. The weir is right here. Okay. But all we kept hearing out of their mouths was, sorry, I didn't realize I was off screen. But all we kept hearing is that we've gone back and we've retraced our steps, blah, 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 over and over. And if she wasn't in that water, I would have found her. And then she ends up being a mile down past the weir 3 weeks later. Again, she could have been caught up in the weir and they didn't see her there. And then, pops out, which happens, right? Pops out, the body fills up with its gases or whatever, pops back out and then gets caught. Or she could have been, there within that same day. So for him to say that she couldn't have gone past the weir, I don't know. It just, like, again, it's not the police. It's not Mr. Popo that found her. It's two people that were walking the dog that found Nicola. And the coroner's report will give some answers, hopefully. I'm sure it will. Like, if she fell, like they said, they're going to obviously see a contusion, on the back of her head or something like that. If there was alcohol in the system and different things like that, hopefully, that's going to be in the coroner's report. Either way, kind of like what that Maggie thing felt, regardless of anything that happened, good or bad, this family now has answers to where and what happened to Nicola. And what did the press conference say? Anything interesting? You're just going to have to go. I just finished playing it, sees through. I wouldn't say that it was very brief. It actually started prior to the time it said it was going to do. I was trying to save my VPN because I only got a certain limit that I use because I don't really use a VPN that often. And so I was trying to save it. And then, so when I caught it, I was like, oh, the woman was speaking. But they said this police dude said, they basically confirmed simply that it was Nicola that was found, that the family, of course, has been told that they're grieving. And then a spokeslady for the family, or whoever she was, said that basically the family was just saying, she meant a lot to all of us. She was our center of our world. We're disgusted with how Sky News and IT News or whatever it was handled things when we asked for privacy, or privacy, as you guys say it in the UK, that they didn't respect that. And basically to the sleuths, and people of the world, about pointing fingers, basically saying shame on the news, shame on sleuths, type of thing. Thing is it's a two-edged sword there, isn't it? Because if it wasn't for the media, and if it wasn't saved for sleuths and that help out, like within the Gabby Petito case, and stuff like that, and there's more cases, it's like people want you when they need you, and then when they don't. But I guess it just becomes about, regardless, having some respect for the family, And you know, not sitting there throwing out the accusations that Paul had anything to do with it and stuff like that, right? Because again, obviously, if you were in his shoes and your wife's gone missing and you truly know you didn't have anything to do with it and you're being called as suspicious, it's hurtful, you know. It depends, you know, it's hurtful obviously because you're in the most rawest moment of your feelings, right? When you're again, if this was your child, you want the news, you want everyone to be helping you, you know. But by the same token, there's good and bad and pretty much everything out there. So it's just one of those things. It's not going to go away. It's always going to happen. It's always going to be there unless there's ever rules set in place that, you know, say differently when it comes to online. Do you guys, you know what, let me ask you guys that. Do you guys think eventually that there's going to be rules specifically for the true crimes, like the sleuths? Do you guys ever think that there ever going to be a day where they're going to basically, you know, say certain things or, you know, fines? Well, I mean, this Dan Duffy guy got a fine for recording the area of where Nicola disappeared. Yet there's a ton of them out there. I don't know how they're going to stop that one, especially since they didn't stop people from coming in, you know. Yeah, I mean, you know, to me, yeah, obviously freedom of speech, right? Like, again, it's not like they deemed it as a crime scene. You know, it's like we believe she's here, da 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 da. You know, so I mean, they could have handled things a lot better, but I feel like in the UK you're going to see something come down in the UK, perhaps. Yeah. Well, they say that, but really we do get censored. Yeah, I mean that's not really true magic. You can't censor speech because look how many times Facebook, Twitter, and all that stuff. Look at what happened when, even though this channel didn't do it, but look at what happened when somebody accused this channel of talking about the C word, which is the flu, right? And they literally have it in the thing that you are not allowed to talk about certain things unless it comes from that one particular organization and stuff like that. So I wouldn't say that there's all this freedom of speech anymore because little bit by little bit they keep, like, you can see it on Facebook, right? What do they call these people? These little people that go across Facebook and deem if your content is if it's factual or not factual, you know, and taking away people's rights to be able to speak and say things. So it's kind of one of those things. It's not so much freedom of speech anymore in a lot of ways because all these little things going on with Twitter, Facebook, and all this different things, and YouTube and everybody. Yeah, you know, because we all know it's really pathetic, the stuff that we can find even on here and the stuff that, you know, a way lesser channel does and get, say, reprimanded for it. But you can go find all this activity that you shouldn't be able to find either. And then the channels that are more of the like lower grade ones are the ones that are like getting their, you know, here's a community strike for your behavior in this. So, you know, it's not the free thinking world we see it in, to be honest with you. But I just wonder if I'll be curious to see if UK does put any, you know, actions in plan, because they did come across, at least from this side of the world, they did come across a lot harsher than what the US came across like. And I could see that right away. They were like very opinionated and harsh towards the sleuths and stuff like that. And again, if it's been a bigger case that they haven't seen in a long time, kind of explode open. Other than that, you know, the US, like I said, it's like almost like the US, these are a dime a dozen, to be honest with you. And so it's very much normal here. But again, sometimes it's the perception. When you live over in a certain spot, you might not see it. But yet I had people that I knew from the UK that wouldn't cover, like that were watching the case, but because of all the controversy and the way people were getting slagged, they decided that they weren't going to cover the case because of that. It's almost like if you were covering the case, but then you had like Michelle After Dark walking along with her camera there, you know, taking everyone for a stroll. I mean, so I guess it just depends on each person too, on how they feel about it. Either way, whatever. I'm just glad Nicola's found and the family gets some closure, regardless. So unless there's anything that anyone wants to say in the next minute here, other than that, I'm gonna get going. I'm not sure whatever happened to Adam. Alexa asked me if she could join, but I said it's not worth it now. But thank you, Alexa, for that, and thank you, Miss Dog Lover, for joining today in the $1.99 super chat. And if you guys could give this again live, I woke up and it was like I finally got some sleep because I kept trying to stay awake to see if there was any word of a press conference coming on, and then I finally fell asleep. And I didn't, because I set my alarm for like 2 hours from when I went to bed, and I was already tired. But I was like, okay, well, let me see if we're going to hear of a press conference. And there was nothing. Then I wake up to Alexa's message saying that there's a press conference on at 5:30 UK time, and I'm sitting there going, okay, it's 9 now, 9 to 10, 10 to 12. Oh wait, that's in half an hour. And so I was trying to just shake out of it, like I am trying to do still right now. It's just trying to wake up a bit here, just because of being a little bit exhausted from the last couple of days. So yeah, if there's nothing else, you guys, thank you for joining me today on this. I think it's Monday, right? Not sure in the UK if it's a holiday. Here over in Canada, we call it Family Day. The US call it President's Day. I'm not sure if the UK over there has a holiday or if it's considered a regular work day over there. But anyways, you guys, thank you for joining me. You guys have a great day. Prayers for Nicola and her family, that they have some at least some answers, and then hopefully in a not too distant time here, we'll hopefully have some answers with the autopsy report of maybe, to give us some answers selfishly, I guess, to see what kind of did maybe happen to her, if it was just natural or if there's concussion or if there's any other third party involvement. All right, guys. Nope, I'm waiting for Pancake Day. And when I lived in Calgary, because the Calgary Stampede is like the biggest whatever rodeo show around type of thing, and so always on Stampede every morning for the 12 days, it would be Pancake Day. Like meaning you could go down. I remember when I was working downtown in Calgary at Eaton's, it was a big department store, and we just go half a block, not even, and you just go get your pancakes, go get your free pancakes. Too much for a diabetic. It's too much sugar in the syrup, though. Sadly. Anyways, you guys. Anyways, take care, guys. Have a good one, and see ya soon, or see you at some point. All right, take care, guys. Bye.